All right, so we're ready to get started now. All right, so how are you?
Tired, to be honest with you. But I'm okay.
Yeah.
I think
Okay, so
the weather's
oh, go
tiring me
ahead.
out. I think the good weather is tiring me out.
Yes, the weather is finally getting nicer, so that's really good. Um, so I wanted to ask you, can you tell us a bit about yourself, like how you got started and everything, just for people who might not know?
So what I do is I produce a 2-hour daily radio show called Echoes, which is heard on about 100 stations around the country.
Hmm.
Um, and I've been doing radio ever since I was in college. So I did that. I did a series called Totally Wired that won a bunch of awards, Artists in Electronic Sound. And yeah, I've been doing Echoes ever since then.
Okay, nice. Now, like I told you in email, I actually started listening to Echoes when I was about maybe 9 years old, 9 or 10 years old. And I was a little kid, and I lived in Pennsylvania. I couldn't even like get to sleep sometimes if unless I listened to it at night. And so when I like, got older and stuff and I was looking for it, I was like, oh, this is actually still on, because there was a span of time where I wasn't actually listening to it. I couldn't always find it on the radio at the right time.
Mm.
Um, after like I moved Pennsylvania, I moved to different places and just kind of life stuff. But I was surprised that you were still doing it, that it was still you and not, like NPR, somebody else or something like that. So I wanted to know, with that, how have you stayed in this for so long?
It hasn't been easy, Nancy. I got to tell you, it
Hmm.
really hasn't been. It's clawing together a melange of support from grants, from donations, from radio stations who pay for the show, from
Hmm.
the online service, which if you subscribe to, you could listen to Echoes whenever you want.
Yeah. Hmm.
So that would solve your problem. So yeah, it's just bringing together a lot of different things to make it happen.
Hmm.
It's a struggle. We're a small operation,
Hmm.
3 full-time people, including me,
Okay.
10 hours a week. And so you've heard the show. You know what we do: features,
Hmm.
interviews with artists that are heavily produced, and well, until this past year, live performances.
Uh-huh.
So so yeah, it's been a struggle, to be honest.
Hmm.
But it's, I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. And actually, I believe I have the subscription now. This was like years ago, before. I don't think that there was a subscription back then when I was looking for it. So it
Right.
was like, yeah, that was even years ago. So like, it's still from then. It's still been on, and I just find that um, so incredibly fascinating, because I think that music really influences people, and Echoes has been doing that for decades,
Mhm.
bringing
Yeah.
different kinds of music to people's attention. And so I wanted to know, especially like with this pandemic, how do you think music has been influential in people's lives, and kind of maybe keeping people sane during this time?
I think it's Linda. Let me answer that question from another end. So, for instance, today I just interviewed a band called Decoupler from Philadelphia. They're an electronic pop duo, and also on Monday
Hmm.
we're running a feature with Bob Boilen, and
Okay.
did their last album for Panic albums.
Mhm.
And they reference the pandemic. All Bob Williams is all instrumental. Hidden Smiles, but you know what that's a reference to? Hidden Smiles, right? The face mask.
The math.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you can't see anybody smiles. And DeCoupler was dealing
Hmm.
more with depression, loneliness,
Hmm.
boredom,
Hmm.
anything, and they deal with those. And so that kind of music, I think, is helping people deal with it themselves. Not to mention the fact, just in the general Echo stream of things, I mean, we're a fairly chill show. I mean, it's definitely a place where you can like tune it in and go somewhere else, with the music
Right.
playing on the show.
Right.
So
Right.
I think it's been
Okay.
useful for people.
I do too. I do too. And one thing I've noticed, like last night, there was a premiere of the National Geographic movie Genius, Aretha,
Right.
for Aretha Franklin, and there's also, of course, been the Billie Holiday movie.
I just watched
And
it last
so
night.
with okay, nice, nice. What did you think?
I thought it was great. I wanted to look up a little bit to see how accurate it was to history
Mhm,
because it was
mhm,
bleak. I mean, it was bleak. I felt so, I knew she had a bad existence, that despite
mhm,
all her fame, all her accomplishments as a musician, that she had this other undertow of just surrounded by bad things, and that movie definitely brought that out.
right.
Yeah.
It really did. It really did. I think the performances, everything was fantastic,
Mhm.
And like with that, the kind of influence on larger culture and politics that music can have. Like in all of your experience, what do you think of that? Like what do you find um like how do you find that music kind of impacts things politically?
I don't know that it impacts things politically, especially the music we deal with. It's fairly
Hmm.
apolitical music. You get down to
Right.
it. Some very political albums and interviews that we've done lately with like Wax Taylor and Moby and a few other people. So it's definitely Trump definitely brought that to the fore. I think in a lot of
Yeah.
people's, but I'd say most of our music is fairly apolitical.
Hmm.
Just not. It's not about that. It's about personal feelings. It's about interior meanings. Uh,
Hmm.
it's very existential, like, although that was taken into play quite a bit too in the last 4 years. So yeah, so it's interesting. Um, but how much it actually impacts the listener, that's kind of hard for me to say. I mean, I would say certainly most of our listeners anyway are on the left of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
Although I posted a few things on Facebook that definitely showed, well, not all of them are. We have a lot in the South,
Hmm.
and those listeners they're not necessarily left leaning. So
Hmm.
yeah. So when I post those things online, they get pissed off.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's really interesting because one thing that I find with music is no matter kind of people's opinions or backgrounds, it does seem to it crosses those lines as
Mhm.
well. I mean, whether we kind of agree with it or not, like you have a lot of groups that I notice like they'll tell like there were a few that Trump tried to play and they told him don't use our music.
Yeah.
you know. So,
There are
you
many,
know,
actually. There
yeah.
are many. And none of them would let them. The Stones, Springsteen, I think Journey. I mean, there were a bunch, which is interesting. I don't want to go off on a sidetrack here with you if you don't want to go there, but
Oh no, that's fine.
he has rock artists that like him.
Hmm.
Why doesn't he use their music? Like
Right.
and Kid Rock and people like that. But I don't know why he doesn't use that music. But yeah, all most people didn't have any association with him. And Bush had the same problem.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. And it's very interesting because like you said, they have all these groups that like them and they won't use their music, but you kind of have to wonder like why, like what is the appeal and what they're trying to
right.
put forward, there I don't know, I always find it interesting because I think that sometimes some of these not to get too political, but some of these politicians try to mask what they're really about with music that is opposite of that to kind of
Right.
get into people's heads that they represent that rather than what they actually represent. Not that anything is wrong with like the other groups or anything like that, but I don't think Motley Crue necessarily makes the same kind of music as Bruce Springsteen, you know?
those groups are not making a statement about existence and the country and the ideals. So, for instance, Born in the USA, which they all misinterpret anyway. Not the first one to say. They all think it's a rah pro USA song, and it's actually kind of the opposite of that, at least from one angle. Whereas all those other groups, Motley Crue, I mean, they're just singing about getting laid and getting drunk and wasted and having a damn good old time.
Right. So yeah, that doesn't exactly make for good music for rallies,
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And I wanted to also ask you, like, your passion for music, because you obviously have to have like a passion for it to stay in it. When did it start for you?
It went way back, man. I can tell you. I actually remember this, even though my mother's probably told me about it. But sitting on the floor of my bedroom when I was about 5 years old, having one of those record players with like the really big tone arm on it, and the needle that was like a 10-penny nail, know, and playing "Tammy's in Love."
Okay.
The song from the movie "Tammy's in Love."
Yes.
Right, and I would just play it over and over again and cry. I was definitely not more than 5 years old when that was happening, but I remember that distinct. But I'm a child of the British invasion that sparked it initially. The Beatles, the Animals, the Zombies, all those bands, and then definitely the psychedelic era.
Yeah.
Psychedelic era is my coming of age music era.
Okay.
So Jefferson Airplane and Quicksilver Messenger Service, Pink Floyd, Grateful Dead, Ultimate Spinach. And then, that morphed into progressive rock, morphed into electronic music, space music. And then I also listen to a lot of jazz, which is represented in the show so much. I mean, it's on there, but it's not, but I got it early. In high school, I was starting to get into jazz, Rahsaan Roland Kirk, and then I was really into the avant-garde, Chicago, Coltrane, Ornette, things like that, and I followed that through for many years. And I still love that music. I still put on those records all the time, and records, but I've kind of fallen away because Echoes is just like just chewed up all my time for listening to other new music. Yeah, but I'm been a music geek. I just tried to find out a way that I could, just listen to records all day and get paid for it,
Yeah, you did that. You definitely did that. You did that. And like I'm so glad to be able to talk to you, because I found it so fascinating. I mean, when I was little, I guess I was kind of like odd with that. Like, no other kids my age listened to something like Echoes. I don't think they even knew that it was on. And I just find it so fascinating. So it's really nice to talk to you. And I just wanted to know, last question, next to last question. What is in store for Echoes in the future?
Nothing big. We're like 31 years old now. So we did all our 30th anniversary things. We're still doing the 30 icons of Echoes, the way to getting to, but we're like got through the middle of doing those shows. And hopefully what's in the air is, bands coming back in to play live on the show. So that's going to be happening. I think our attention is going to be going more towards the online. Radio, it's you've traveled around the country, so you kind of know radio, especially public radio, has gotten just more news talk, and it's getting harder to find stations that play stuff. It's funny. I didn't talk to them, but they messaged me on Facebook the other day. He had made a comment about our Pat Metheny that we ran on Wednesday, and that's in the podcast now. And I said, and he made some comment. I said, yeah, it's too bad you can't hear this on your radio station. He was a director.
Right.
He's a printer. He said, too bad you can't hear this on your radio station. And he said, yeah, we can't play that. That music would be too esoteric for our listeners. And I thought that was such a sad comment,
It is.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, well, he can be avant-garde, but generally he's not, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. I don't remember, maybe not last summer, but the summer before that, I was looking for a radio station in the car, and I, it was like everybody was talking. I was like, wait, what happened? Like, what is going on? Because I do listen to like a lot of Spotify and stuff like that, and whatnot. But I still kind of expect radio to be there. It's such a foundation, you know. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Radio, it's going through an interesting phase. Um, you know, then its audience, you know, in general has diminished because of Spotify. I listen to Spotify. Um, and but you know, it's actually public radio especially has maintained a pretty solid hold on their audience through all of that. But it's more with the news talk.
Okay. And so anything else you wanted to add?
No, just, you know, glad to be talking to you. I mean, it's people, if they want to check out the show, they can go to our website. We do the podcast every week, which so people who can't hear us can at least hear all the interviews that we do. So those in the podcast every week. You know, this week is what is it? Leandro and Pat Metheny. And then, you know, there's Echoes Online, which is, I think, the future for us in a lot of ways. And that's, you know, it's great because you can listen to it whenever you want, wherever you are. Do you have your Echoes app?
I do. Actually, no, I have it. I have subscribed online. So yeah.
You should get the app and listen on the app.
Okay,
Yeah,
I will do.
that's the easiest.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Hey, Nancy, so when do you think you're going to put this up?
Probably within a few days.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay,
Yeah.
You'll send me all the info and I can do some social on it.
Yep.
Fantastic. It's great talking to you.
You too.